What's up, everybody? It's Aslan and Michael here to talk some recruiting. I'm Aslan Hudjavani. That's Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminoles sports source. Won't you subscribe to our YouTube channel? It's totally free. Bottom right corner, subscribe, bell, set your notifications. Also, go to our website, warchant.com. All this information Michael's about to give you, he's probably given to our valued subscribers over on the
Yeah.
premium recruiting board.
And then with safety, I think the other I think that's even more important. I think that's the position, me and personally, if you nail that position, I think the rest of this stuff, takes care of itself. But I think the safety position is what they're going to look for. Currently, there's nobody in the portal yet, and I stress that word yet because there could be some more coming up, but um, there's nobody in the portal that I think they're pursuing right now that's in the portal per se. I think the last guy they pursued was the Syracuse safety. And but outside of him, there hasn't been anybody that's really caught their eyes. This one's different. This is different linebacker because you need somebody that's an impact guy. I think the skill set they're looking for somebody that's similar to skills of what Jamie did and the things that Jamie did. Not looking for the replica of Jamie, just the skill set of what Jamie did. And I think they want an impact guy that's going to come in there, be able to help them as far as right away. So I think they're being really careful about what they're looking. That could last into the May window, which is May 1st through the 15th. For those that don't know, the window for January is to January 18th. So they're dead period until this weekend. So they could host somebody if technically they wanted to, but it's probably likely May is when they're going to probably pursue that safety unless somebody jumps in the portal in the next few days. Then we can kind of go from there.
How about kickers, man? Steve Johnson's here, says, looks like the kicker we need. We just picked up as a good one. What do we
hmm
know about the SoCon transfer, Tallahassee native, Michael? How excited were you for that one?
Yeah, it's a good one. ETSU kicker transfer came over and visited the same weekend. It wasn't like a lot of pub like the other guys that were visiting, but certainly a very effective kicker. It's going to increase competition, and that's kind of, I think it's a message to everyone. Like, look, we're going to bring this competition out. We don't feel like we want to make this thing a lot more heavy in competition. There was some struggles with Ryan during the season, so I love it. It's competition, and then 2024, you have the number one kicker coming in. Um, I want to say out of South Florida, so that he's committed to FSU. So yeah, they're certainly addressing that kicker position with Tyler. I think he's going to certainly add a lot to as far as competition. He's been in college. He's Division One kicker. He's certainly going to be ready to go. He sounds like he has a little bit stronger leg than Ryan does. So it's going to be interesting to see just how that materializes throughout the spring. Certainly going to be a guy that I feel like Ryan needed somebody to push him, to go into this following year, and I think they got that.
Wow, you really think they'd go after a running back?
I do. I think it's possible if the guy's right and he fits kind of some of the things that Trayshawn fit. I think it's a possibility. I think it's the least likely thing to happen. Not guaranteeing. I don't think it's like a guarantee they're going to add another because I think they feel very good about their room. Keziah, Trey, and certainly Toafili, and even Rodney Hill, who I'm extremely high on. I think they feel good about that room. But if you got a chance to replace the one you lost, I think they would do it if it's the right guy. But like I said, that's the last likely thing to do. I think that's going to be the last move they do anything.
How about this from our guy Kyle? Get down or lay down. Is portal success being used as a source of negative recruiting in the high school ranks? Do you think, Michael?
I don't think it's I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's actually a good thing when you have so many guys. I mean, look back at the Keldrick Falk recruitment. You got a guy you recruited for 2 years, and then the last 2 weeks, guy swoops in there, takes your guy, and it doesn't even matter what you did for that thing. So I think it gives the coaches another advantage of what to utilize and what they utilize more. That hey, maybe some instances now when you get hosed over like that, you go after the portal guy instead of the high school guy and pass on that. So I think it brings more attention to it gives them another option for the coaches, but I don't think it's a negative recruiting on the high school ranks. I think it's going to make it what I think it's going to do is I think it's going to increase high school kids committing even earlier. Like even earlier in what we see. You might see some kids committing like in like March, or May or something like that because you got to get your spot because They know when it comes to portal season. I mean, if you're going to make a commitment, I mean, if high school kids are listening, you better do it by December. Because once it gets around December, you might not have a spot.
How are things looking for 2024, Michael? I mean, I know we're so focused on the portal right now, but a lot of what's going on right now, I assume, is kind of foundations being laid for 24 and future. How do we think they're going to look in terms of high school players here for 24?
I feel really good based on where they start. They're already at the top seven. They're top seven class. You have your quarterback of the future in Luke Cromahoke, very solid. He's been recruiting his butt off for FSU, and then you have your running back of the future in Cam Davis, who's a phenomenal running back that everyone wants. Yes, these guys have taken visits. They've gone to different places, but to get those guys early, I think was a big deal. And I think overall the class is off to a much better start than kind of what they did when the previous year. I think the previous year it took some time for them to get to this point where it hit the spring, and now already they're already up there. I think there's several guys that certainly because of the season and what they've done, guys like Josh Trader, 5-star wide receiver, very high on FSU. It's going to visit FSU very soon in this spring. I think the difference is changing of now. I now just the last few days and even weeks, I've seen a lot of swing from prospects that are getting on FSU's campus a lot earlier than in previous years when what I've seen. So I think they're certainly doing well. Obviously, got their kicker, number one kicker in the country, and over there at the bottom as far as on the commitment list, and got some local flavor in there with Keyshawn Mashburn, who I think's a 4-star personally. I just love how athletic he is and the way he gets off the line. I think just some really good commitments in this group, and I think it's only going to get stronger. So I'm good with just top 10, top 12. Do I think they can get to the top 5, Tom? Yeah, I do. I really do. But I think even if they don't, they get the top 10 or even the 12 mark. I'm good with that as long as the portal class is a strong class. It's about what your roster is, not about what high school awards you get for recruiting. Like the high school part's harder because you have kids in there like Hakeem, Blake, KJ Sampson. There's a few in there that could make a splash early as a freshman. But most of the time, those guys take a year or two to get going. So you have to keep those guys happy. With portal guys, it's more exactly they're vetted into what they've already been through this. They've been in college, so you're certainly going to get a quicker impact and a quicker explosion. Certainly, a guy like Hakeem, you feel like he's going to play a lot. Dre Jacobs, some as well, but I think the main thing is what you do as a class as a whole, not just what you do in the high school rankings. Yeah, that dream world is over. That stuff is over where you just get a top 5, top 10 class and you're good. It's like, no, because you don't know how those guys are going to be developed, two, if they're going to stay, and what happens with their future. So I think you really have to evaluate your classes as a whole, and hopefully On3 gets to the point where we're combining the rankings of both of these classes because to be honest, it's all the same. They're still in your school. So I think eventually that's something that probably needs to happen as far as when you're evaluating these classes. But I don't evaluate it now with the way just high school now, because now things have changed. I mean, we're in a new era, NIL portal. It's all together. You have to value everything.
Talked about Cam Davis, Michael. You think there's anybody else out there they'd bring in alongside him, even though he's a 5-star?
Yeah, I think we put a running back, hot board up, and I think it was very significant in detail. Probably the best position I feel great about as far as what we put out. There's a ton of guys. I think they do want another back with Cam. That doesn't mean like that's always been the plan, to have two backs in this class. So I think they definitely will. There's certainly several in there. I can look at if you want to right now and break them down if you want me to each one, um but yeah, there's definitely I'm gonna look at it real quick, guys. Just give you a brief summary, but I think they definitely want somebody with a different kind of skill set of what Cam does. Obviously, Cam is very Cam Akers like, just very electric as far as physicality, speed. Certainly, does a lot of great things as far as in the open field. He does everything you're kind of looking for. Um, Now, looking at these running backs right now and breaking it down, certainly one that I'm very high on. He's very similar to Lawrence Toafili is Micaiah Denzi out of Florida High. FSU high now. I watched him in the state championship game. Really good, really fast. Long strider, does a lot of great things, good speed, certainly very effective out of the backfield. He's one I like a lot. Another one I like a lot is Arquise Parks. He's a guy that's out of, I want to say, let's see, Wharton,
War-
out of Tampa, Florida. So he's a guy that they're very high on. I've heard he's going to visit the last weekend in January. So he's one that they're very high on. Jason Patterson out of Sneeds, basically almost local, man.
what?
Yeah, yes,
Steeds?
yeah. Led the state of Florida in rushing, actually. So
All right.
he's certainly a guy that they have their eye on. He's visiting this weekend. And if you go to the list, I just put on a small list, a starting list on the board. There's going to be some guys visiting this week, some really good prospects. You can certainly go there and see the guys I already have. I think there's going to be more added, but certainly there's a lot guy. And then the dark horse that I really hope there's a push there for that I'm pretty high on is Isaac Brown. He is certainly another South Florida running back. I like him a lot. I know the staff likes him a lot out of Homestead. They're very high on him and his talents. I think you could see him visit sometime in the spring, very early. I think that's a guy that FSU's really involved with, that they're pushing and is rising up their board. So I think those guys are some of the guys that I'm looking at that I've heavily, focused on as far as the running back position to go along with Cam.
I want to see our guy from Sneeds, man. I want to see how he
Yeah,
looks. I'm pulling up his
he's
tape
like
right
6 foot. I would say 6 foot or 5'11", 190. Has him listed as linebacker, but he's a big running back. I mean, he is powerful, really good, really impressive back. Ran for 500 yards in one game this year, so he's a guy they like. They like, they always like, you always like to throw in a power guy in there, and a guy that has quick feet, and that's what Jason is. So interested to see how that visit goes this weekend with Jason and FSU.
Who else is coming on campus this weekend? Anybody else urgent? You think, Michael, that is on the plans, on the radar for the Noles?
Well, like I said, there's several guys. 4-star offensive tackle Jonathan Daniels. He's out of Pine Forest. He's one they've been heavily involved with. That they've certainly made a big push for. He visited FSU a few times for games. He's going to be on campus. 4-star defensive tackle, or defense. It might be defensive end or defense tackle. I'm not sure. DeAndre Robinson. He's out of Tampa area. He's another one they're very high on. 4-star DB Brandon Jacob is coming in for a visit as well. There'll be more added to this list, but those are just a few already that I have confirmed that are expected to come. And I do think they're going, for those that are wondering, I think they're definitely going to host visitors every week of the a weekend of the month of January, because February is a dead period. So I was told this was kind of like a small junior day type of weekend. So could have a junior day weekend this weekend. Then Luke Cromahawk's coming on the 21st. So I think that could be another big weekend. So I think they've certainly gone heavy junior related in this month of January. I think they really want to nail these visits before they get to that month of March, where you have visits, you have certainly more junior days and certain evaluations, and then go see kids in person, spring ball, all that stuff. So I think they really want to nail it with these 3 weeks.
R. Wilmer was wondering about baseball recruiting. Wrong show, but he does want to know about the classes. How's the class looking overall in terms of trenches, guys on the lines? Michael, what do you think?
It's great. I love what they're doing. Even the Daryl Jackson recruitment, that was a lot of, man, I'm exhausted chasing down that recruitment because it was so back and forth, where Miami's doing this, Miami doing FSU, going to FSU, going to Miami, and then back to FSU finally and getting some resolution. But that's a major deal, because you look at it, technically you didn't have to have Daryl Jackson, but man, those trenches, you can never have enough of those guys. And getting a guy like Daryl that can really plug that hole running the ball, and then adding, the number one defensive tackle in Braden Fiskey, and then also having Lovett return, and some really good young guys. And the guy we don't talk about, KJ Sampson, I think he's going to play a lot. Just on young guy, I think is going to be in spots that they're going to want to put him out there because he's so good with pass rush. I think had 20 sacks this year, so That's a guy I'm excited about that I think can make some more. So I think they did really good in the trenches. I think they nailed it. You look at what they did on the offensive line. You got what I feel is an all ACC type of guy down the line, and Lucas Simmons. I love Lucas. I think Lucas is going to be phenomenal. And then you add those interior guys, and you really just addressed every part of the trenches. And you're absolutely right, Wilmer. I mean, it is all one in the trenches. I mean, because if you don't have that, as we saw in the Georgia TCU game, you're going to get exposed, and that's what happened. Georgia was dominating the line of scrimmage, kicked their butt, and then after that, just the game just got really out of hand. But I really just love what they've done, their attraction to the trenches, and not just getting enough, going overboard to get even more guys than they probably need. But I would say on offense, for me, they seem to really love four-star wide receiver Chance Robinson out of St. Thomas Aquinas. They're very high on him. Chance hit me up today, said, Pat Surtain is a really close friend of their family, so there's obviously ties there. So I think that's one that they're very there's a lot to be excited about. I think with FSU, I think for him on offense, that's the guy I would lean toward. On defense, I'm trying to pull it up now, guys, because I'm trying to do this all on the fly. As far as defense, but I would say moving to the, I would
You
go
know
the
what
deep.
position he is? I mean, I can pull up by
No,
position.
I'm trying to pull up. Man, this is tough.
Welcome to my
But
world, Michael.
it's, it's like I would say I'll go with DeAndre Robinson for now. Four-star guy that's visiting this weekend. Defensive tackle. They like him a lot. They've done a great job recruiting him already. That's certainly one that they're very high on. I think other places, moving over to defensive end, you also have guys like Dylan Stevenson. He's a guy out of Columbus that they're very extremely high on. That's a guy I think they can certainly that they covet. Booker Pickett out of Tampa is another one that I think is really high on their radar. And then the guy that I think, now that I think about it, would be LJ McCray out of Daytona Beach, mainland. That's a guy that I've heard is one of the top guys for FSU on the defensive end position. So that would be the guy if I was listening to anybody. If I now that I think about it, be LJ McCray. They are very high on this guy. This guy's got some really good offers already. He's really blown up since the end of the season. I think he's a guy that they cover extremely high. Pay no attention to that 3-star because he will not be a 3-star. I think going into the season, I think that's going to be a guy that people want and covet, and you'll see his ranking go up. He's a guy I like a lot, and certainly one I think they covet heavily. So I'd say LJ McCray and Chance Robinson. Let's roll with those for now.
All right. But in terms of pure star ranking, though, it looks like KJ Bolden. I mean, we're talking just
Yeah,
about
yeah,
pure stars because, I mean, a lot of those names you mentioned were not this sort of higher
yeah.
end.
KJ Bolden would be defense would be with KJ Bolden, and then the offense I would say Josh Trader. Josh is a 5-star wide receiver, very high on FSU. Very close friends with Edwin Joseph and Conrad Hussey and Hakeem. So they certainly know each other. So I think you'll see Josh take a visit to FSU. So those are some off the top of my head.